The hardest but most important thing when throwing on the wheel is how to center your clay. Here are some of the steps I've found to make centering easier. The first step of centering your clay is taking a wedged clay ball, patting it into a sphere, as close to symmetrical as you can, and then you slam it onto the wheel head, like this. And you want to get it as close to the center as possible. If you've never wedged before, make sure to watch my video on wedging. So the wheel head, when you slam the clay on, can be a little bit damp, which helps the clay stick a little bit better, or it can be dry, and that usually works as well, but it shouldn't be so wet that it's slippery. And if it is, you can use your towel to dry it off. Once you slam the ball onto the wheel, you're going to seal the edge like this. Sealing the edge makes it so that no water can get underneath the clay, because when the water gets underneath the clay, it's really easy for it to slide off and you won't be able to center it. Step number 2 is to get your hands and clay wet. The clay and your hands should be wet enough that the clay slides underneath them. If the clay is ever sticking to your hands, then you know you need more water. This liquid clay in my hands is called slip. I like to use slip instead of water because it lasts longer and it's not as messy. Step 3 is called coning up. This step is really important because you're redistributing the clay so that it's in the center. To start this process, you're going to lock your elbow into the edge of your leg, and you're going to be primarily using the palm of your right hand and the edge of your left hand. Because this arm is locked into place, the clay shouldn't be moving your hands around. You should be able to tell the clay where to go. With this hand, I'm going to pull up and kind of squeeze the clay so that it goes into a coning motion. And at this point, you want your wheel to be going pretty fast. To do this, I'm again going to keep my arm locked in my leg. I'm going to use this part of my palm on my right hand, and I'm going to use the bottom of my thumb on my left hand. I'm going to be pushing the clay down and a little bit forward into this hand, and since the clay has nowhere else to go, it's forced as it goes across this hand to be redistributed. Repeat steps 4 and 5 until the clay is centered. You can tell your clay is centered when the clay isn't wobbly anymore, or if you want to get more specific, you can point your finger towards it and hold it steady, and if it touches the clay in some places and not in other places, you know that it's not centered. As you can see, the clay is now centered. Sometimes at the very bottom, it's really hard to get this clay redistributed. My favorite way to fix this is using a wooden rib with a square bottom. If you don't have a wooden rib, I left a link to my favorite one in the description below. Learning to center clay can be really hard and takes a lot of time, so just remember to stick with it and keep practicing. If you have any other tips for centering clay, leave them in the comments down below. If you want to learn more about pottery, make sure to subscribe to my channel and check out my website at ceramicsbyaddie.com.